Okay, so hello everybody and thank you for joining us today. Today we are joined by Elliot Evans from Symantec and Helen Murphy here at Byte Software Services, and we'll be talking about Symantec NetBackup 7.6.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Murphy, and I work in the Symantec team at Bytes. So why come to Bytes for Symantec? So we've benefited from a great partnership with Symantec for many years now, and we are seen as their go-to partner. Bytes are a platinum partner, which is the highest level of partner status afforded to Symantec partners, and this is based on our sales and technical expertise. All our account managers hold Symantec sales accreditations, and we have a dedicated team of Symantec product and licensing specialists that you can utilize. So as well as our sales accreditations, Bytes are specialized in a number of focused areas. Just to name a couple, data protection with NetBackup, e-discovery and archiving with Enterprise Vault, and we have in-house technical consultants in these areas delivering professional services. So we can assist you from designing your backup environment to implementation and knowledge transfer. We can also run health checks on your current estate, assist with upgrades, cross-grades and migrations, and we would recommend beginning with a joint workshop session with us to discuss your current environment, and we can then make some recommendations. So thanks for joining. I will now hand over to Elliot to begin the webinar.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Helen. I'm just going to share my screen. And hopefully everybody can see it okay. Welcome to the session on an update of NetBackup 7.6. My name is Elliot Evans. I'm a pre-sales consultant here at Symantec. I've been here for the last 8 years, and I work in kind of the commercial space. What I'd like to do probably for the next 30 to 40 minutes is kind of just step you through the new features that we've introduced into NetBackup 7.6. And like I said, both Helen and Sarah said at the end, let's just do a little bit Q&A session. If there's any questions that I can't answer at that point in time, I'll look to take them away, and we'll look to make sure we get an action back to you on those particular queries. So just very quickly, I believe there are some people who are kind of new to kind of NetBackup. NetBackup is like kind of like enterprise class backup solution. It's been around for many years and pretty much hits in our top quadrant in terms of Gartner reports, and also looks to protect, I think it's about 95% of the top Fortune 500 customers. So it's a very robust, very scalable solution. And really what I want to do is kind of just take you through the next evolution of that in terms of the new features within 7.6. Before I do that, there are some areas that I'd like to highlight as to where we're taking NetBackup in terms of where we're looking to invest. The first piece is really looking to continue to optimize source workloads, whether that's going to be along the lines of whether it's going to be along the lines of physical, virtual, looking at arrays and big data. We've got a lot of features in 7.6 that are looking to kind of address these areas. In terms of the freedom of storage, again, giving you the option to be able to kind of pick and choose what you want to use in terms of your hardware, and also then looking to try and simplify some of the operating features, looking to give you some time back in terms of managing your backup solution. And that may all be in the format of some automated processes that we use within NetBackup. It may well be, for instance, in looking to give some of the responsibilities of backups to other individuals, or it could well be that we have a form factor now of appliances, which I know there's another session happening this afternoon, which if those are people who are interested, we do have appliances now that look to do a floor-to-ceiling solution around that. So these are the kind of areas that we are looking to kind of move NetBackup forward through to. And now I'll let's go drive into a little more details into kind of key features in 7.6. So the key benefits, we've now again heightened the integration that we have with VMware. We've partnered very closely with VMware in the past, and we'll continue to do so. And we've brought in a number of kind of key features which again are looking to make your lives a little bit easier in terms of looking to kind of doing restore kind of capabilities and also kind of protection as well. Other areas, so Replication Director, again for those people who aren't familiar with that, it's an integration with one of the NetApp capabilities where we can actually look to do snapshots or mirroring of data that's protected on NetApp filers. In 7.6 we've added in additional kind of capabilities to identify sub-level information, so looking at sort of VMware data sets, application, and also block level pieces as well. Oracle Intelligent Policies, again, looking to kind of automate that process to make it easier for you to identify what databases you need to kind of protect, and also then go through the process of actually then kind of backing them up. This is something that on the deduplication side, again I think deduplication, most people now know deduplication, its kind of capabilities. In 7.6 we've gone through quite a large re-architectural piece around our deduplication engine, with the idea of actually looking to improve and actually get a little bit more robust around our capabilities. So for those customers that are already using 7.5 and the deduplication capabilities, this is certainly an area that you may want to have a look at. So again, to improve kind of those capabilities that you have, again, justifying the reasons for going through to an upgrade on our premises. Other things, storage lifecycle policies, again I'll go into details in a moment, but we have now the abilities to have more control over what gets replicated to our different locations, rather than having to do sort of a all-in-one approach and replicating large amounts of images. We have capabilities now to kind of control that, and again I'll detail that in the presentation. Finally, there's now support for 2012. It has been a long time coming. It's something that certainly I've felt the pain with our customers, but now we have full kind of capabilities around the 2012 platform for the support. And I'll also look to just make you aware that in addition to stuff that's been also added to the platform capabilities, just make you aware of the stuff that as obviously the product evolves, we're actually decommissioning some of the capabilities on that. But that's in the presentation that we'll go through. So this is kind of our agenda really that we're going to look at. I think we're going to probably spend most of the time looking at some of the key areas, I think, which is probably the VMware, looking at sort of the Replication Director and the deduplication kind of capabilities. Those are the ones that for me, from a customer perspective, seem to sort of really resonate very well and look to kind of provide obviously the most value from their premises. But like I say, any questions, add them on to the end, of course, on any of these, and we'll look to try and get those answers for you. So, going into the VMware piece. Now, one of the things that we've had is the overhead associated with actually locating sort of the blocks that have actually changed from our last kind of backups. So what we can now do is actually look to use our Accelerator capabilities, which is looking to use block level tracking at the endpoint to determine what blocks have actually changed. The ultimate piece from that premise is actually to reduce the actual time that we have, or the CPU overhead, to locate those blocks that have actually changed. We literally just go to one place as a change journal to see what blocks have actually changed, and it's from that we actually then look to track those backups then through to our backups. Again, reiterating the fact that when we do these backups, we have a number of different restore kind of capabilities. So again, it's fast, and then we also then have a number of restore options. So we can do a whole VMDK if you want to do so, or we can actually look to do sort of files and folders, again from that single backup image. And then finally, obviously, if we do have to have an agent installed, but it's only there just to help with the snapshots, we can also combine that with SharePoint, SQL, and also Exchange databases. So you have a situation where when you run a virtual backup, you also have three different types of restores, or three types of kind of capabilities that you can then present back then through to your customers. So really it helps develop that services catalog. So if someone needs to restore an individual file, you can still continue to use your virtual style backups very quickly to do that. One of the other things is now looking at instant recovery. we now have the capabilities of looking to spin virtual machines pretty much straight up from scratch and actually starting to do the restore. So what we're using is in essence an FS share to actually host a vanilla kind of install of the machine and actually then do in the background a restore of the backup processes. So again, it uses the same process that we have. Once powered on, we then actually transfer the disks then through to the EXE host and also use vMotion. So what it means is that, again, looking to reduce the downtime it takes to bring up maybe critical machines. This is probably for those high-end applications that you have in your estate that need this kind of level of kind of capability to restore and also then be able to spin them up. Obviously, you can still use for other pieces, but really this is kind of trying to bring in some sort of high availability into the backup piece for the purposes of kind of restores. So the process is pretty much we then do the vMotion across. Also we use obviously a media server for that particular hosting of the store. It then is presented as a data store then to the EXE host, and then actually then we do a power on the machine, and then actually then use the vMotion to continue running the VMs in a destination piece. So again, look at sort of your virtual environments, VM environments, and see if there's any sort of particular machines that may well be candidates for this kind of capability. The other element that we also have is the ability to use this for individual file recoveries. As it stands at the moment with 7.5, it would have been the case that you could restore the file to, say, a restore EXE host and then drag the file across. Or alternatively, you could direct it straight back to the VM, obviously if you're using a client. This, in essence, is again looking to kind of automate that process and using the NFS share to actually go through the process of doing a restore of a file. And actually then we can then use the file level copy or file recovery to then copy that to any guest OS. So again, looking just to automate it a little bit easier to recover those files, again, all within that particular media service. So that role of having maybe a restore EXE host is now sort of dissolved. It's now included as part of the media server using the NFS mount and the data stores to do that piece. So for those people who are looking to use their virtual estate to host cloud-based services and provide those back through to maybe a different array of customers, we now have some integration with NetApp's vCloud Director. What we can do now is you can actually look to use the Cloud Director to interrogate and find out what machines you have based in these particular cloud-based solutions in your virtual estate. Select basically the various machines based on our intelligent policies. Again, looking to support both public and private implementations of that. And then it's a case of then we can actually look to do the backups of the machines and then do the restores. So we're now not precluding people who take advantage of the vCloud Director, providing maybe services to multiple customers. They can now use the NetBackup service to identify the machines and actually do the protection and restore on individual basis. One of the areas that has sort of come to light over the years is that people now have many sort of interfaces to manage their infrastructure. Obviously, we have our NetBackup admin console. We also have our NetBackup backup restore interface, as well as also finally our operational center or Ops Center, which is really coming to give that overview of what the services you're providing. One of the areas that people had feedback was is that they also use VMware and the integration to manage the infrastructure. So what we've done now is to put a plugin in for vCenter, so that for those VMware admins, they can now look at the backups from the premises of that vCenter. So again, using the standard piece, and you'll see on the actual diagram, there'll be sort of an additional tab that comes into play and allows basically them to kind of do a check on what the backups have actually been running. Also from that interface they can actually look to initiate restores if they want to do so, so there's some interaction with that kind of capability. But it just allows again for people to know that overnight looking at the vCenter console, the backups will actually kind of complete. The other aspect, and this is kind of what there's an overlay between the NetApp and also the VMware pieces. So it's becoming more and more common where customers are now using NetApp and using that to host their virtual estates. And as part of that, the NetApp pieces have a replication director that allows us to identify the data sources that are associated to VMware. So with that particular kind of configuration, NetBackup has now been able to kind of integrate with the replication director to assist with actually going through the process of doing both the snapshots and also the backups. So again, we can go through the process of using our VMware intelligent policies to identify the various machines. We can then do the replication, then do the kind of snapshots, whether it's entire machines or we can do applications, files and folders. And then actually then use our lifecycle policies to automate the process of doing first of all the snapshots, then maybe then replicating that to using SnapMirror to another location, to another NetApp filer, and the final piece may well be then actually then looking to do a backup of that hardware snapshot onto tape for long-term kind of retention. So really kind of NetBackup is looking to kind of automate the data protection of the VMs that are running on that NetApp estate, both from a snapshot and recovery perspective, as well as obviously then putting it onto storage. It may well be dedupe, it may well be tape for longer term storage. The process that actually happens here is we have obviously our NetBackup console here, and we have in essence a tiered structure of where we have NetApp at the bottom, hosting the VMDKs, there's the host. And we then do basically a snapshot at the NetApp level using the storage file cluster policies, which we can then replicate to another location, then do say a backup to tape or to disk, and then also then do another replication. That then allows us then to be able to do sort of these different types of restores, VM level, Exchange, SQL, or do the files and folders on that premises. So continuing on that replication piece, there's now a sort of block array and application support. So again, looking to integrate with those kind of capabilities. So we can look to use Windows, Linux, and Unix file data, or physical Oracle, and wildcards. To in essence do our snapshots and our backups from there. So really again looking to keep up to speed with the changes that have happened kind of to the replication director. So again, for probably those customers that do have NetApp pieces, there is definitely a good reason to look to use the NetBackups to help kind of control both the snapshots as well as obviously the backups using the integration with the replication director. And also if you're now looking to use it to host your VMware estate, again, there's even more reason as to why you may want to use kind of the NetBackup and the 7.6 features. So Oracle Intelligence Policies, again, looking as a process to try and automate how we actually go about looking to protect Oracle. There's probably a lot of script-heavy pieces that we need to do in terms of protection around Oracle. So really what we're looking to do is go through the process of doing the automatic discovery, looking to do the scheduling, making it easier. Again, the key thing is trying to move away from scripts. I'm not a fan of them because the fact that they always have to be updated, and also the fact that they tend to be kind of custom made to individuals, so they're not particularly easily transferable to some of these organisations. Anything that can help move us away from scripts and keep basically things as easy as possible, really helps. Obviously, we have some pieces in there about integration with ASM and sort of crash consistency snapshots. And also, again, looking to extend further integration further on into other features. So in essence, what we do is have the Oracle instances here at the top, and actually then go through the process of actually looking to protect the various databases, etc. using the authentications, etc. So again, just making it easier for you to go through the process of actually protecting those databases. And obviously then we can then go through the process of actually doing the restores. So again, like I say, it's just really looking at all the various pieces that we can do around the Oracle protection. It's going to be pretty much well tight integrated. Again, I don't know how many customers out there are using Oracle, but certainly obviously our high-end customers, they're looking to extend further and further investment around Oracle. So moving on to the other sort of main area, which is around the deduplication piece. These were the areas that we wanted to kind of highlight or grow in our deduplication piece in the 7.6 release. The key things really is looking to kind of be a little bit more intelligent around doing self-healing, doing the maintenance of the dedupe and keeping things into order, trying basically looking to improve the faster restores and backups, and also looking to kind of deal with sort of poor links, etc., etc. So this is under the skin a fundamental change basically to the deduplication engine. So those customers who are using 7.5 or an earlier version, this is probably one of the key reasons as to why you probably want to upgrade to 7.6. The net result of these changes, as you can see here, there are some significant improvements. Now, I've had some feedback from the field from customers who put the new 7.6 engine into place, and the feedback has been incredibly positive, and the fact that it's been very robust as well. This is kind of more a reflection of one of the key things within Symantec is that we've been trying to focus more on the quality of our releases rather than just trying to get them out to the market. Our CEO has really focused on making sure that if we are going to put a release out there or a change to a product, we need to make sure that we've done everything we possibly can to make sure that it's as robust or as quality as possible. And this is one of the first iterations of that, the 7.6 release, and the fact that it's really gone through the process of making sure that we're not introducing any more issues into customers' environments. We're focusing on that quality kind of element. So look at these, take advantage of the fact that you're going to get improved backup kind of times and speeds for that. Again, looking just to sweat the assets that you've got there in terms of the storage. The other area that we have is as well as around the storage lifecycle policies. Again, for those people who are familiar with that, it's a process for us to be able to automate the tiering of our storage. So what we can do is actually do a backup initially to say basic disk. We could then replicate a copy of that then to dedupe, and then we can then make a third copy that may go onto tape. The tiering of the storage or for the backups may well reflect the importance of that particular data. So customers can tag say a gold, bronze or silver standard to the types of storage to reflect the importance of the data. And what it means is it's just a case of then once you identify the data on the front end that needs to be protected, you put it into the corresponding storage lifecycle policy to automate that particular process, and then obviously you then know it's protected at that particular level. Now we've evolved that in 7.6 in the fact that we can now actually control when the replication actually occurs. Before it was an automatic process, it would just, once the backup had completed, it would actually kick off the next process, then to the replication and down to the next storage, and then obviously then onto the tertiary storage, which may well be tape. We now have the capabilities of actually controlling when the deduplication window actually runs. So from that particular premises, we can now have a situation that if there are other areas that use the same network links for replication, we can now actually control where that actually happens. Again, you can see here, for those familiar, you've got another start window, very similar to our current scheduling process that we have for our policies, to be able to obviously go through the process of replicating. We can also do some pieces around looking to expire of the primary, and also looking to just make it intelligence around how we do the backups. Other things that we can also do, and this is probably from the premises of looking to replicate from to different master server environments. You have the capabilities of being able to replicate this to another master server for the premises of robustness. Now, historically, it used to be the case that you'd had to replicate all the backup images. In this instance here, we have a situation where we can now do a little bit more granularity around what we actually replicate. So the images now, rather than the whole backups, are the targets that we're looking at, and we can actually replicate them to different master server environments. Benefits from that, obviously, we can put different retention periods associated to those. So you may want to put long-term retentions into, say, a tape-based solution that's on a separate master server, and maybe lower retention periods on, say, something that's just hosting deduplication. I'll just scroll through here. In essence, here you've got the abilities to kind of target the different master servers. In essence, this is kind of a diagram of how it actually would work. We've got our master domain A with our client. And historically, we'd have a situation where pretty much everything will be replicated to data center 1 and also to data center 2. What we can do now is actually then have the backups of, say, image A of that particular client and going through to domain B. And then separately, we can have image B now being replicated to data center 2. So it may well be a case, again, looking at that retention periods, you put, say, for instance, historical monthly fulls onto a separate data center, maybe have your weeklies on a separate data center locally, again based on the image and the retention periods. Op Center, for those again who aren't familiar with NetBackup, the Op Center is one where we have the capabilities of being able to look at across multiple master server environments. It's something that a lot of my customers, when I speak to them, haven't heard of, and actually it's critical to making sure that when we put a backup solution into place, that it's a living, breathing environment. We need to make sure that we're monitoring what's going on with that environment, looking at making sure that we're backing up all of the data that's there, looking to maybe look at sort of the service levels we're providing to our customers, also looking to maybe actually looking at sort of some trending around sort of how much storage are we using in terms of deduplication, etc., etc. So for me, I always say, Op Center, it's free, it's part of the product. Get yourselves installed with it and be able to see, get some trending or get some understanding of what's happening to NetBackup to avoid those situations where, a large amount of data may come into the front end. It's the solution hasn't been scaled correctly, and all of a sudden all the backups fail as a result. So with that in mind, we've actually added in a couple more kind of capabilities in the Op Center. Again, we now have the abilities to monitor our appliances. Again, I'll leave that for my colleague Andrew to go through on this afternoon session. So again, we've got a single sort of view to monitor both the software as well as obviously the hardware that may all be underneath it from an appliance perspective. Also, we have some integrations with our cloud providers. For those who aren't familiar, we have the ability to use the storage lifecycle policies to do target out to cloud-based solutions. We've got here examples of S3, Rackspace, and Atmos. We've also got Amazon as well. So we have the abilities now for you to monitor the backups that you now have hosted within those cloud providers. Other things, obviously now, the abilities to run on 2012. We've also now got more exposure to the underlying database that we actually run the Op Center on. The customer reporting, when we look at that, we're looking at someone who may or be someone who's responsible for business objects in the environment. So typically it'd be a case that they'd be looking at using, say, SQL reports, crystal reports to do very comprehensive, detailed analysis of what's happening with the backups. This again is just looking to expose even more kind of capabilities for there. And obviously now we have the abilities to host these on the master servers if we need to from the web-based piece. And then finally, again, access control, the abilities now to delegate the responsibilities of some of the backup pieces. I always use Op Center as a good example for people who have service desks to be their first point of call just to see what's going on. And it also allows you then to delegate sort of some of the more basic kind of tasks and maybe just do some simple restores to the service desks and allow basically the backup operators to create the policies and also make sure they maintain the services behind the scenes. So use basically the integration there with the LDAP to control or delegate the responsibilities out to maybe different parts of the organization. So this is just a view from the appliance monitoring perspective. Again, gives us the ability to see what's happening with regards to the appliances. Things like, for instance, power supplies, RAID configurations, etc., etc. Also, we can look at from a voltage perspective. Again, looking just to monitor what's going on with regards to the underlying appliances. Another new capability is the abilities to use the bare metal restore, which we've had within NetBackup, I think from about 6 onwards, which allows us basically to spin up a machine from a complete blank hard drive to rebuild it, both the combination of the platform, the disk, and also then do a restore of the backup to then reintroduce back into the environment. It's a one-stop process, pretty much, if you're using a boot disk or a boot server to bring those machines back up after, say, a hardware failure. We've used that technology to be able to use a virtual instance, so we can take basically a Windows server and look to convert that into a virtual machine. So we have a situation where we first of all don't necessarily have to have a separate boot server which hosts the OS. We use basically VM's instances of the platform to do that. And the second thing is it now offers another kind of capability. I've had some customers use this piece to be able to provide temporary services back to their customers whilst those machines get rebuilt. They can host that machine on a virtual platform, and then once the machine is back up and running again, pass the role and responsibilities back then to the physical piece. So again, for those people out there who are providing services for other customers, etc., this is certainly something that you may want to kind of consider. Catalog enhancements, again, this is kind of nuts and bolts. Really, again, it's just trying to maintain the catalogs, trying to keep it as small as possible. Looking to try and locate the images, etc. Again, we've improved the performance behind that to be able to locate the various files. We've also got now some of the Oracle database kind of capabilities inbound into the catalog, again making it easier for us to be able to do the restores across that rather than using a separate traditional table-based to recover that. 64-bit support and the empty backups, and obviously now we've got a situation where we've embedded basically the EMM server to be, in essence, the master server. Again, pre-prove upgrade checker, something for those people useful for doing their own upgrades. So again, for those people who have Linux and Unix environments, we've got that. Look at all of the any binaries that you have as well, rather than just obviously maintenance packs, and obviously making sure that we've got enough space to do the maintenance on the database as we go through that process. Again, the same principle with regards to the Linux and the Unix pieces in terms of making sure we've got the right capabilities. So other sort of key pieces, I'll kind of rattle through these. We've got obviously some changes to the SLPs, basically the abilities to put some stuff into Activity Monitor. We can also suspend secondary processing if you want to do that. Obviously we've talked about sort of the air and that kind of replication piece. Client restores, so basically they go directly through the master server. There was a situation where we had to contact the media server to do the restores. And now we've got some logging assistance as well for uploading log file content. And also Java is now installed onto the GUI, again making it easier for us to be able to access those people who still prefer to use Java as their interface rather than the Windows console. Like I say, wildcards for NDMP are now included. Legal search and hold. For those people who are getting more familiar with this, this is looking to integrate say legal requirements around data protection. It extends from, say, using our Enterprise Vault product or archiving product to make sure that data that needs to be protected is protected all the way through not only the archive, but also through to the backup as well, and also allows us then to be able to use that capabilities to recover that data or search that data for the purpose of recovery should it need to be for any legal kind of requirements. Application support, again, like I say, you'll get a copy of this anyway. So, we've got now a very comprehensive support for 2012 on the client side. There are some things that we're looking to do from a future perspective. Media server support, we've got now some capabilities in there for 2012. So we now have the abilities to host that onto those servers, and also for the master servers as well. Application support, again, looking to introduce Exchange 2013. SharePoint will be at a future release. But we now have also now the SQL 2012 integration there as well. Other proliferations, so again, this is just a list really of just the various pieces that we have. So please make sure you have a look at these, making sure you've got the support associated for it. And what we now have a situation is we've now dropped some of the endpoints. Remember the fact that obviously NetBackup has the capabilities of being able to run down-level versions of the clients with a master server. So if you're running a 7.6 master server, there's no reason why you can't run a 7.1 client on the endpoint because of the fact it protects that particular type of platform. It may be that some of the features aren't fully supported, but certainly it allows us still then to be able to protect some more of the legacy application pieces. So Op Center, historically it used to be able to deal on the 6.5 or 6 versions. Now that 6.5 is out of support, the view is now just to focus on the support versions 7 onwards. We've also dropped some of the integration around Enterprise Vault. We were able to archive with just archive integration. We've moved away from that and also dropping some support from some of the other pieces. As well as obviously some platforms. So that kind of covers everything from a 7.6 perspective. There isn't sort of any sort of real major kind of changes to the environment. I think the key things that I probably want you to take away is to certainly make sure that you use anyway the deduplication piece, really to sort of grow and sweat the assets that you've got there. That in itself will be one for validation for the upgrade. Continue to use sort of the VMware integration to be able to provide different levels of service as part of your services portfolio, and especially those customers that may all be using cloud-based services to host other customer environments, use the vDirector integration. You may want to use some of the instant recovery pieces or power on pieces to provide, again, a high level kind of capability for the backups. I think the other thing is, as well as obviously looking to use the SLPs, storage lifecycle policies, to replicate your data across the different locations. And then finally, the NetApp, really tight integration in there with regards to replication data already. We're just looking to heighten that to include obviously the smaller subsets like the VMware, so it's easier for you to kind of manage that process. So again, these are the areas that we're focusing on. The 7.6 release is looking to kind of introduce or address some of these, certainly around the workloads. But these are the key things that we're going to be looking to kind of drive forward, and obviously we'll continue to develop within the next releases of NetBackup. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully it was of use, and obviously you will have a copy of the presentation. Helen, I don't know whether we want to do any kind of questions, or there have been any questions during the session.
Hi, Elliot. Yeah, I think there's one question. So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the box now, and we can go through them for the last 10 minutes. Sarah, can we go to the questions? Okay, so we've got a couple of questions. The first one from Vinaya. Need some information on the licensing, please. What are the requirements we need to consider while purchasing licensing for virtual instances?
Okay, so in terms of licensing, NetBackup or Symantec, we've got two types for NetBackup. We have traditional, which in essence looks to look at the way in which NetBackup is being installed on the infrastructure, and we'll then look to license the pieces. So if you've installed it on 10 clients, we would need 10 clients licenses for that. You've got then a couple of media servers and a master server. You need a couple of 3 licenses for that. Obviously the tape infrastructure, etc. So that looks at it from an infrastructure perspective, what's physically deployed. The other option is actually to look at just what data needs to be protected. And we don't care about how much infrastructure is actually used to actually support that front-end data. So it's based on front-end terabytes. Now, in terms of a licensing piece, I always recommend that we work through both examples to make sure you get the optimum piece. It may well be a case that you have a situation that you've got maybe a small infrastructure but with large data. That may well tend itself preferably to go down the view of a traditional piece, because there wouldn't be that many clients that need to be deployed. Conversely, if you've got a lot of endpoints, etc., it may well be a case that the capacity-based licensing model may be appropriate. There are other things that do play a factor into it. One thing now is that capacity-based licensing has DG embedded into it, so there's no separate SKU to it. Traditional still has a separate SKU for deduplication. Again, it's something as a factor that will have an effect in terms of what the best optimal piece is. Going down the virtual element, obviously from a capacity-based piece, we would actually look at sort of what the actual footprint is of those VMDKs. That's, it's not the white space, it's actually what data is being protected on those VMDKs. So they had, like, say, a 5 terabyte data store, but they're only using 2. It would be the 2 that would actually be looked to license from the NetBackup piece. From a traditional perspective, we license per EXE host, and then that then allows them then to be able to put the client, as many clients as you want on the endpoints. But I would say that there's no hard and fast rule as to which one you should go for. I recommend that you work with your Bytes rep to work out what you need from the solution. And that must include, look at deduplication as well, and then obviously then go through the process of actually working out what the best model is. I also have customers that do like the capacity model because the fact that it allows them to renew at the same time every year, so co-terming never really exists. And it also allows them to be able to put a value associated to a per terabyte solution, so it's quite good if they're providing services to other organizations. They can put a cost very easily to what the data they're actually protecting. So just bear those things in mind when looking at the virtual piece, but work with your Bytes rep to go through the best licensing piece. Hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect, thanks Elliot. And just another one from Ian. We currently use Backup Exec 2010 R3 to back up file LUNs on NetApp. currently taking about 48 hours to back up 2 terabytes of data. First 24 hours is indexing them. How will NetBackup improve on this?
So for that, I'd probably need to know where you're actually backing up through to, and also what the configuration of the policies. So if it's the case that we have a situation where there's a large LUN or piece, and that's attached to a single client, obviously it's going to have to go through the file list. Now, NetBackup has a feature called Flash Backup, which allows basically to skim the process of going through, of searching through the individual file structures. What it does is literally just as a raw stream straight off that particular client, and we actually index basically on the fly. So, those customers with those large data sets and millions of files can basically use the Flash Backup to really improve the performance in terms of streaming things through to it. If it's the case that you may well have, a number of clients, again associated to that particular SAN piece, you may want to then look at, again, maybe reducing the number of backups you run at that time to avoid contention, or maybe look to use deduplication to minimize what we have in terms of the block replication. If we would put it into a NetBackup environment, it would be a case that we would use the Accelerator to identify what blocks have actually changed. We wouldn't actually look to worry about the file list, and actually then just replicate those blocks then through to our back-end kind of storage. But again, it just depends on sort of what the configuration is of the policies and what targets you're going through to determine how quickly you can get those through. So if you can provide further kind of details, I can probably maybe give you a more definitive answer as to whether there's more kind of capabilities. But certainly it may well be that, say, that a Flash Backup policy from the NetBackup perspective may well be more appropriate to protect that data.
Great, thank you, Elliot. And one from Fraser. There are several items shown as future release, for example, 2013 Deduplication and Exchange 2013 GT. How far off are these?
Oh, the million-dollar question. So, from that perspective, I never like to kind of play on futures. I will see if generally they're going to be at least a couple of quarters away. All I can do is to take an action from this and work with Bytes to kind of give you some indicative time frames from it. As it stands at the moment, I can't give you a definitive. The main thing is just to make sure we keep the communication going between you and obviously a Bytes as to when it's going to be releases. I will do another double check to see if there have been more definitive dates on those releases, and then I will obviously work with Bytes to kind of get that back through to yourself. Okay?
Thank you. And one from Chris. Quickly, do you know when client-side deduplication will be supported for Server 2012?
Again, same process. I'll double check where we are in terms of the roadmap for that. Okay?
Perfect, thank you. And from Dev, are there any changes to the Hyper-V policies?
Not per se, and it's an interesting one because I'm finding that more and more customers are now moving to Hyper-V. It used to be VMware, it was everybody's VMware and everything else. I think a combination of people going through a renewal process and actually found out how expensive it was, like, ouch, and also the fact that Hyper-V has now come up in terms of its capabilities. I'm finding a lot of customers are now using a combination of VMware and Hyper-V, so they'll probably use the Hyper-V maybe for the test and dev environment rather than actually the main production ones or whatever. We do have integration with Hyper-V at the moment, the ability to kind of select individual files, etc., and back up CSV files, etc. However, I think people are now looking for more integration with the Hyper-V piece. Now, again, I've fed back through to product managers saying that it's now very much to the forefront. We need to have sort of similar kind of capabilities with VMware as we do with Hyper-V. So it's very much, again, on their agenda. Again, it will be a case to see, I can try and give you some indications as to what areas that we're looking at, but I wouldn't be able to give any time frames for it. But if there's any particular things that, again, you are looking to kind of use or protect, let me know, or use, work with Bytes, and we can see where we are at in terms of that protection. Okay.
Great, thank you. And question from Gerard. Does NetBackup integrate with NetApp Snap Manager Suite, or does it replace the Snap Manager Suite and use the native snapshot tools?
No, it integrates in the Snap Manager Suite. So for that, if you want to take a note of that particular customer, I'll send you some information on that, and you can see how the integration actually works. It's just using their APIs. We're not inventing anything new. It's literally just making the calls that are already there.
Great, thank you, Gerard. We'll send you some more information on that. And just one from Fraser. We currently use Backup Exec, but the amount of data and multiple platforms now seem to indicate that NetBackup is a better solution. What would be the decision point from anyone else that has done this step?
So there are multiple things on this, and this is something that regularly comes up as to when do we move from Backup Exec to NetBackup. Data growth is one, absolutely, and generally, and this is a real generalized statement, anything over sort of, say, 10 to 15 terabytes in size, for me that's kind of maybe a kind of a crossover or a consideration to kind of look at NetBackup. Obviously, we do have customers that are protecting much larger estates using Backup Exec. That's not a problem at all. But generally, at that point, I look to consider whether they need that kind of capability around to the NetBackup piece. I do also have customers that are using NetBackup for smaller environments, not because of the fact that it's a storage growth. It's because of the commercial pressures that are put on them, like reporting, like they need to have the restores, etc., that mean that they need to use some of the more advanced features in NetBackup because of the fact that that's part of what the services they're looking to kind of provide. So whilst it's a case that generally the storage is one where we would look to see what goes on in terms of crossing over, there is a situation where you need to go back and actually really understand, and it's primarily around restores more than anything else, really understand what services that you need to provide back through to your customers, certainly around SLAs and intentions and that sort of kind of capabilities. At that point in time, we can then sort of marry up the features between both Backup Exec and NetBackup to kind of work out the best kind of pieces. But real generalization, you need to be kind of, there's much more further qualifications on this one, obviously work with Bytes on that. When you're looking at sort of this 15 to 20 kind of terabytes of the size, that's sort of an indication that you may want to start to try and move things over to that. And it's certainly going forward, data growth for me is just going exponentially through the roof. So, more and more customers are encountering sort of challenges around data growth. And like I say, it's like today's terabytes is yesterday's megabytes and tomorrow's petabytes. It's crazy. It's getting absolutely massive in certain areas. So work with Bytes, go through the process of understanding what your storage requirements are, but also make sure you overlay that with SLAs around the services that you have.
Wonderful. Thanks, Elliot. So I think that concludes all our questions, unless anyone else has anything else. That would also conclude our webinar. So thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And just to add to that as well, if you wanted to learn more about the NetBackup appliances, as Elliot mentioned, please look on our website. It's at 2:30 this afternoon. Please register and we'll send you the details. So thanks everyone. Thanks again for joining, and we'll hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you.